We'll try to talk about this from a different angle, but it's always what I'm trying to put into this theory here for everyone so you understand how your consciousness works and how we get this present moment that we have. And I always try to explain it this way. And it really fundamentally boils down to this. It boils down to first, the idea of living in the past is where you get depression from. Living in the future is where you get anxiety. And that's the trimurti. That's the tri-angled view of things. When you live in the present, it's the gift, it's the present moment. But there's something that's always lost there to people that have faulty ideas of what spiritual people do and what they believe in and their understanding of higher knowledge. And the sense of these two things that really go head to head when we boil it down to these places. One is the materialist place, and one is the futurist place. And a lot of times, things that have to do with religion get wrapped up in a belief in the past, meaning a belief in a history book, but attached to a future event. So it becomes very confusing. It's always, oh, there's someone coming back to save us. So it deals with the outside environment, having no self power, believing in the past but thinking something's going to come in the future. That causes a lot of chaos of the mind. But then we have more. We have people that deal with the world as it is, and these are these scientism folk, these hedonists. Here's what I have, and this is all it will ever be. And their fault, what their dilemma is having no belief in an afterlife or having belief in the value of growing something, of the future whatsoever. A scientist will never plant a garden. They will never plant a seed. What do? They want to build something so it can be done on a manufactured line and instantaneous gratification of exactly what they wanted. Boom, there it is in their present moment as a materialist, as a hedonist, as believing in something that is a physical construct. And it's all they want everything here. They want the space to be filled with physical matter and objects, not even understanding that what will occur is you will take up the entire space. There'll be no emptiness. There'll be no room for anything. There's no room for there's no room for a future even to have everything now. But then what gets confused is, well, in these spiritual pursuits of people, it gets tagged into, it gets hinged into religious notions. Spiritual people don't really, when you get into it, they always want to put these words together about religion and spirituality, and they're quite different. They have nothing to do with each other. A spiral ritual is just that. It's a spiraling of energy. Religion is a legion, meaning it's tied to something else. It's a rope. It's a rope to something. A spiral has nothing to do with a rope. A spiral is three-dimensional, collapsing things from all past, future, and everything. Spiritualism doesn't have to do with just the future. It deals with the past as well, and it deals with the present moment. And so it's so hard to grasp what it really means. But that's for anyone that hasn't explored it, when they just take it as a word, as what they've been given. Because spiritual people have nothing to do with religion. They don't want anything to do with religion. And so we get into this dual frame of reference, this dualism, and even the dualism that we've been sold on every account, as I've always brought forth, between science and religion is a faulty one to begin with. Because they really are part of the same system. They're part of the same history books. As science is built upon the giants of the past that gave them theory, they're bound to those books. And as religion is equally standing on top of the shoulders of giants of the past, yes, there are certainly within both schools of thought, and science and religion, a belief that they can build a better future. and that something will come back and save the religious people, and for the science community of we will build something to save humanity from the from ourselves. We'll save ourselves from our evil bodies that weren't built right, or the look at it, it's so look outside, it's a mess out there, we can build something to clean it up, not even considering for one moment that the mess that the earth is in is because of the things that were built prior to it. And it's not about building something to fix what was built, but removing what was built, removing the blockages. And it goes for both. See, and again, me saying both is there's many more notions, there's many more factions, there's many more pigeonholing that occurs in society. It's just the popular ones to talk about. But I'm trying to show it from the materialist versus the spiritual futurist. That is really what it boils down to. If you just everything was the material world, then magic couldn't happen. Metaphysics couldn't happen. Things that we always there's always somebody trying to talk about these metaphysics and in a materialist mindset, and it will never be proven. It can never be proven by the materialist view, like this rice experiment that I just did again. You could never, it could never, just like could you do a double blind could you do a double blind test on somebody drinking their own urine? No, you couldn't. You couldn't even be qualified, because you would always know if it was your urine. You couldn't. There's no way you could set up an experiment to prove it. Just like you couldn't really prove it with the rice experiment. You could prove it to yourself. So there's this giant divide between personal application of something and seeing like, oh yeah, that's okay. It's like you can't explain to someone your dreams and say, oh no, that was just a dream. But then you wake up and you speak a different language, and somebody goes, well, prove it. Well, no, I learned that language in the dream. I was reading. Oh, you couldn't do that. Why? Well, I am. I'm showing you and I've used the example too of going to an island. I could go to an island and tell someone about it, and the materialists would be like, well, I've never seen it, so I don't know if it exists. I'm like, oh no, I've been there. Like, that's a great story. Okay, fine, I'll bring back seeds. I bring back seeds of a plant that these people have never seen before, and I plant those seeds, and they see the fruit, and they go, that's a delicious fruit, that's wonderful, but I don't know, where's the island? I was like, well, there's a way to get there, but we can't all go there at the same time. You can go there, and they still don't believe you. They see the fruits. You can see the fruits of anything, but the belief, it will never be there. No, that it doesn't matter. I don't. You could have made that in a lab. You could have done this, and there's always this. It comes down to that. For those that understand, no proof is necessary, and for those that don't believe, nothing would suffice, and it really boils down to that. But what the mystic does, what the spiritualist does, is try to engage someone enough within their vortex of magnetic energy to pull someone into an idea that they too are an energy vortex and are magicians themselves. To get to people to have the experience, the experiential life, the wisdom themselves, and I've put this before, just to have the gnosis themselves. You can have gnosis without ever having an experience, meaning you could go inside of your head and have a dream that is not very tangible, but gain an internal gnosis and wisdom from it, without never having experienced it in this 3D world. And this has to do with how learning can occur, how you don't need to fall down a flight of stairs to know how that would feel. You can deal with things empathetically through visualization, through an internal environment, through watching it on TV, whatever. And so, as I'm kind of boiling this back down into a stew, boiling it into some sort of mush so everybody can eat it and see, this materialist, hedonist, scientism viewpoint needs to be, because again, these people have theory, and they always make these claims about, okay, this is what we'd like to see in this lab. This is how we'd like to go about it. So they're using an idea of what the futurist is, what the futurist does. They're making they're making their scientific experiments, but then they get lost in them. They get sucked into that experiment and then never come outside of it and use it and apply it like a spiritualist would. And then you have people again in the the religion of the future, of something coming outside of themselves to save themselves. And that's, again, I'm trying to show this in an up and down and a left and right fashion. I'm up and down meaning a higher knowledge, and lower down meaning a denser knowledge, a past knowledge versus a future knowledge. And in the religion, it's a future knowledge that something outside of self will save, where the materialist lives in the present and in the past and thinks that, oh, they'll build the thing that will save them from what I don't know. I guess from the present moment as it sits. So this comes down to if the materialist, the hedonist, the scientist would sit in the yogic posture and observe the elements and observe themselves, they'd have a different philosophy on what they're trying to accomplish. Where the religious person should probably do the same thing. They need to be pulled from wherever they're sitting, pulled from the past, because their mind, both of them, because everything comes through the mind, whether or not anybody accepts it, everything is metaphysics. And I hate to use that term even, because the mind comes out of the higher realms and then into the material realm that we live in. It's an imbuing of the etheric nothingness into what is material. The material doesn't make nothing. Nothing makes the material. The idea makes the physical thing happen. The idea is what built the car. The car didn't build an idea. So when these two factions, one in the future, one in the past, sit in a present moment, they come to terms with a little more of what they are, what their experience is, what magic is, and they can start to kind of come to terms with death not existing. How could death exist? It already death isn't dead, remember? It's around us everywhere. It's in the ether. And then we grab the things that are dead. We grab the dead earth. We grab the things that are around us and build things with the dead things. And then we participate with them. But let's not go too far and start to have idol worship. Religious people talk about idol worship. And they look at that statue and they think that statue is the god. But what has the science community done? They have more idol worship than the religious folks do, and they don't even see it. They worship their creation of their automobile or their rocket ship or their whatever it might be. And this is why you see these sand paintings, the sand mandalas that are made and then blown away, to give people the idea that physical thing isn't it, that the art exists for the moment that it does. And then you and you can move throughout these realms just by changing your brainwave patterns, and you can change it by your breathing patterns, and you can move up and down, in and out, wherever you'd like to be. You could sit in your mind in a future environment and pull that information into what you are, and then make something here in the material world, because there's nothing wrong with either of them. They're bound together. The past is what we build the material out of, and the future is where we get the ideas to use the past material to become whatever we are right now today. Have a beautiful day, y'all.